For homicide detectives, the clock starts ticking. The moment they are called, their chance of solving a murder is cut in half if they don't get a lead within the first 48 hours. I do anything to keep my brothers safe, I'm putting food on my daughter's plate, You fucking losers, y'all just can't relate. You harm them, you will find me on the first 48. You will find me on the first 48. Find me on the first 48. I do anything to keep my daughters safe. You harm them, you will find me on the first 48. Sitting in that room, hear the interrogator's voice. They asking why I do it. I tell them I had no choice. Couldn't take a threat or a risk to my family, so throw the book at me. I take them charges happily. Ain't no need for no polygraphs or forensics. I put that fucker in a body bag, I'll admit it. Fuck a sentence or the jury that will convict me. They don't understand, it's my family, they represent me. So for them, I risk my freedom, roll the dice. I ain't got much more for you crackers. Go ahead and give me life. You don't know what it's like. For the people that you love, they ain't there to give salutes. They ain't there to give you hugs. The same that done pull me from the dirt and from the mud. It's gone because of who? Y'all rather shed your blood. My brother's kids like my other kids. If you touch them, fuck around, get another big +10. Put me in the Supermax. I get super jack, working out every day. Canteen super stack, cool with that. Long as it need my daughter safe. My brother's winning, that's a chance I take. Chill my faith. I do anything to keep my brothers safe. I'm putting food on my daughter's plate. You fucking losers, y'all just can't relate. You harm them, you will find me on the first 48. I got wives at the day they all that stand beside me. Kids that can't see me fall, look at me proudly. Respected by men with honor up on their names. You harm one of them, I promise that you'll see pain. I'm one West train, made an oath to uphold it. Stood with my back against the wall, never folded. Grew up in the city where the love ain't brotherly. I ain't had too many friends, I ain't need the company. I'm my father's son, so I'm cool, just don't fuck with me. I say that you my homie, you're my brother, then you stuck with me. Never turn my back on mine, it's to the dirt. You cross them across that line, I end you first. But only make it worse as loyalty hurt to find. Never think cause you out of sight, you out of mind. And I don't mind dying now, cause reincarnation got me coming back. Same scars in my heart aching. Before laying with killers from all places. Every last one of them for me a broad day shit. So what you think? I won't do it for them. Once they let me out the cell, shit, I do it again. It's for the family. I do anything to keep my brothers safe. I'm putting food on my daughter's plate. You fucking losers, I just can't relate. You harm them, you will find me on the first 48. Find me on the first 48. Find me on the first 48. I do anything to keep my people safe. You harm them, you will find me on the first 48.
Hey, Shalom, I'm Officer Zabaja of the I.S.U.P.K, Officer 500 Zabaja of the I.S.U.P.K, under Commanding General YAHANNA. Started out 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Established 1969, I.S.U.P.K, we are the home of the truth. Like to give a shalom to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai Barak Atham to all the brothers. Yahweh Shemar Alatham Ba'Shem Yahushai to all the sisters. This is the I.S.U.P.K Canada history class. We're going to be going in on a history subject, right? Which plays it definitely has a relevance to what's going on today, right? Especially if you're familiar with the blackity black community, right? The community, the unconscious community, right? Their star, one of their stars have fallen. Their star came up against the Israelite school of universal practical knowledge, came up against the men above me, Captain Tazariak and Captain Katazah, right? And now the Lord is putting him to shame. The Lord is dealing with him, and we watch that brother be charged with assault on a 14-year-old, right? And something that the unconscious community likes to say is, well, you Hebrew Israelites, right? You Israelites, you never like to talk about DNA, right? Do a DNA test from the oppressor, and you're gonna find out that the oppressor is going to tell you that you are a Hamite, right? 1 second, let me get my camera straight. Salakia, right? The oppressor, the unconscious community is going to tell you to do a DNA test, and you're going to find out you're a Hamite, right? Well, that DNA is definitely something they don't want to talk about now, because the evidence that the courts or the from the people who charge polite, they're saying they have DNA evidence, right? Salakia, gotta bring this down just a little more. They're saying they got DNA evidence against that man, right? So let's see what the unconscious community says about DNA. But why we're gonna teach about the history of Susanna, and for any sister who finds herself in a situation, Salakia, 1 moment. Right. So back to what we're saying, right? This is something that's heavy that the General Mahayaman broke down. Basically, like, sisters, a lot of times sisters aren't believed. The victims of crimes aren't believed, right? Especially if the crime happens and there's no witnesses. Especially if you don't cry out, right? If you don't cry out, no one believes you, right? They're gonna say, well, why didn't you cry out? Why didn't you tell the police right away, right? So we're gonna talk about a sister who had the courage to fight, to cry out when someone wanted to abuse her, right? And what we're gonna find out is, as we go into this story, as we go into this history subject, right, and we go into the scriptures, you're gonna find out that there are men, right, who say they are righteous. There are men who say they are righteous, and they are monsters, right? There's no righteousness in them. There's no truth in them. There's no love in them, right? Polite said that the black woman is God. He's been pimping sisters with that black woman is God for so long, and now you're finding out that he's going to try and say his God, the black woman, is lying, right? Because a 14-year-old, he's charged with abuse of a 14-year-old, right? And the courts are saying they have DNA evidence, right? So now he's going to say, well, listen, the black woman is still God, but she's a liar, right? And that's to let you know there's no truth in that man, right? The only place you're going to get a righteous leader that's not going to give you the Eddie Long, right? That's not going to try to Bill Cosby or R. Kelly you, is in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, right? So we're going to be going into our story, and we're going to do this in 2 parts, right? We're going to do this in 2 parts. Salakia. Don't forget to hit the sign-in link. If you are looking for Hebrew benefits, hit that sign-in link. You want to get in the school, hit the sign-in link. Let us know where you're at, right? keep signing in, get those 90 days, get you a Hebrew name, get you benefits and credit for attendance. Right? This is a place where you want to be. This is a safe haven for Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Right? A lot of times you hear that the church, the Christian church, is a safe haven for Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, and then someone's trying to do something to your son. Someone's trying to sleep with your wife, or the pastor is touching your daughter. Right? That doesn't happen in this place. You will never, ever hear that someone has abused your child in this school, right? If someone tries to abuse a child in this school, which is not going to happen, it's going to go really bad for that person, right? So let's get into it. Right. So first we're gonna bring up understanding. Right. Slovakia. Give me one moment. Let's not forget, in about an hour, Commanding General YAHANNA is going to be going live on Black Watch News. Commanding General YAHANNA is going to be going live on Black Watch News, Slovakia, at 9 p.m. And you want to watch it. It's going to be excellent. So we want to get to Psalms. Right. So this is Psalms 19:104. Through thy precepts, right? So through these scriptures, I get understanding. Through thy precepts, I get understanding, right? You're going to get the correct knowledge through these precepts, through your history book, through the scriptures, right? That the prophets of old have left us. Right? You're going to get the correct way. You're not going to be told that the black woman is God by some wolf in sheep's clothing, right? You're not going to get that. What you will get is righteous leaders. You'll get a righteous leader. You'll get instructions. You'll be taught morals. You'll be given understanding. You'll understand that the oppressor is the devil the Bible speaks of, and your pastor is a liar, right? Your blackety black I love Kemet so-called leader is a liar, and they're only going to hurt you in the end, right? All throughout the so-called conscious community, the so-called blackety black world, all the leaders have always hurt their people, right? Just Google Malcolm X. You're gonna find out that his own brethren killed him. That's never going to happen in the I.S.U.P.K. Right? Through thy precepts I get understanding. Therefore I hate every false way. Right? You're going to, once you get the understanding that you are Israelite and there is a way for you to live, you're going to hate the lie. You're going to not like when they tell you you're African, you're an Egyptian, right? Well, if why is it that so-called blacks from the blackety black unconscious community always say you're Egyptian, right? You're never the Hamite that puts the plate in his lip, right? You're never the Hamite that stretches their neck with coils, right? You're never the Hamite that abuses a sister, that abuses their daughter with like there's tribes of Hamites, when their daughters are born, right, as their daughters are growing up, they turn around and say, well, listen, we have to mutilate her, right? Because if we don't mutilate her, this part of her body is going to make her enjoy what the Lord intended for her to enjoy, right? Meaning they're going to cut off the clitoris of your daughter, and because they believe that it makes her want to enjoy sex. It makes her want to go out and have sex with random people, right? When that's ultimately not true, right? And that's not Israelite culture. But the blackity blacks of the unconscious community, they never want that culture, right? They only want to be what's good. They always want to be what's great, right? Kemet was great. It was a great, large Salakia. Now, when I say great, I don't mean like it was great, like it was better than Israel, right? But this is what the world calls it. They say this was a great place at one time, right? That was a place full of homosexuality, full of deviant sex, right? Through thy precepts, you will get understanding, right? Let's get to Proverbs. We're gonna go to Proverbs 18 and 21, right? Proverbs 18 and 21. And you have to understand there's power in the things you say. You can say the right things and it will be powerful, right? Proverbs 18 and 21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, right? You can give life, right, with the power of the tongue. The Israelite school of universal practical knowledge, we go outside all the time and we prophesy to the dry bones. We prophesy to the air, the stones, and the water, and we bring life. We wake up the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans who are walking around like zombies, right? Like dead bodies. We that's how we give them life, right? There is definitely power in power of the tongue, right? And you could use your words to give life and tell a black man to stop committing those sins, and he's reborn once he listens, right? You could use your words to cause death, right? A lot of times so-called leaders who have authority over a people they shouldn't have authority over, right, who don't know anything to do with that authority, they use their words to harm. They use their words to cause death, right? Let's 1 second. They use their words to cause death, and that is why the black Hispanics and Slovakia Native American community, that's why we're in such a terrible state. Hey, Shalom, Aki, how about Shemil Shai Barakatha? Right. Salakia, I'm not sure if your mic is on mute if you were trying to speak, but the water for tuning in, right? We're in a terrible state because we have people in authority who aren't supposed to be in authority, right? And they do the things that the Most High hates, right? Let's get to Proverbs. Salakia, did you say something?
Lord one.
Come. You got your sword with you?
Karawakan.
Can you bring me to Proverbs 6 and 16? Right? We're talking about the power of words and brothers who do things, so-called leaders who do things that the Most High does not like. Right? Give me one moment. Hey, we're back. The water for your patience, Ak. You can read that scripture whenever you got it.
Okay, it's Proverbs 6 and 16.
Come on, Proverbs 6 and 16.
Khan, this is the books of Proverbs, chapter 6, verse 16. These 6 things doeth the Lord hate. Yes, 7 are an abomination unto him.
Right? So hold that right there. There's things that the Lord hates, right? You're going to find out that these things that the Lord hates, it's the traits of all your so-called leaders, all your so-called bean pie, bow tie Muslims, right? That trick the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans into following Ishmael. It's the traits of your pastor, of your so-called conscious, the so-called unconscious community, right? That's the unconscious community. They don't have a conscience, right? They're going to defend their stars. They're going to act like, oh, well, we did say the black woman was God, but now the black woman's a liar, right? You're going to find out that all the men who were pimping our sisters saying that the black woman was God, they're now going to turn around and say that the black woman is a liar, right? Because one of their stars has been charged, right? And the evidence they have on him, they're saying it's DNA evidence on the garments of the young sister, right? You can continue reading.
Verse 17. A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands
Right.
that shed innocent blood.
Right. A proud look, right? Someone like our pastors are proud. They know they don't have the proper understanding of the history book of the Black, Hispanic, and Native American man, but they're so proud. They're so happy to steal money and abuse the authority that they like to use over the children of Israel, right? They're proud. They're going to keep doing it, right? A lying tongue, hands that shed blood, right? Even though when a sister or a brother is molested, abused as a child, or even a grown woman, even though those hands, even though they haven't shed blood, it's like you damn near killed them. Their life is not ever going to be the same unless they get counsel, and they need counsel, right? A lot of times our brothers and sisters, once abused, they're gonna fall off into Lord knows what. Look at, like, it's, if they're not abusing people themselves, they're going to fall into the line of sex work, drugs, or just not know how to function properly in society. Keep reading.
Verse 18. An heart that deviseth wicked imaginations.
Right. A
Feet that
heart
be swift
that
in running.
thinks. Right. Just Salakia, just try to stop at the commas when reading. Right. No sweat. Thwara. A heart that devises wicked imaginations, right? You'll find out that Polite allegedly had wicked imaginations, and he carried out those wicked imaginations, right? That's what you're finding out. And here's the kicker. The man hasn't denied. He hasn't denied the allegations against him, right? Most people, listen, there's guilty men who've denied allegations and they've been guilty, right? Innocent men are gonna Salakia, I'm looking, they're going to go to extraordinary lengths to deny their guilt, right? Salakia, not an innocent man will go to extraordinary lengths to prove that he's not guilty, right? Read.
Feet that be swift in running to mischief.
Feet that be swift in running to mischief, right? The Most High doesn't like if you're just so quick to get into something that's not godly. That's not Salakia. That's not how the Most High wanted you to live. Continue.
Verse 19. A false witness that speaketh lies.
Right?
And
the conscious community, the unconscious community speaketh lies, and they bear false witness, right? They like to say the black woman is God, right? They get that directly from the Bible. They get that directly from the story of Adam and Eve, when the serpent told Eve that you are not going to die from eating that from following the other cultures, right? You are going to be like a god, right? Now the unconscious community turns around and says, black women, you are God until you accuse us of abusing your daughter. Read.
And him that soweth discord among brethren.
Right. And the Most High doesn't like a brother or a sister who sows discord, right? Who sows animosity between the brothers and sisters. Brotherhood is our currency, and we're rich in it in this school, right? Can you get me Exodus 20:23 and verse 1, right? Now, what you don't want to ever do is give a false report, right? Especially in here. A false report is going to get you kicked out of this school. You're going to lose your spot in the kingdom of heaven, right? This school is like a little slice of the kingdom to come, right? The brotherhood, the sisterhood is rich. You don't ever want to give a false report. You don't ever want to Salakia. You don't want to lie to the men above you, to your brethren. You can continue reading.
This is Exodus chapter 23, verse 1. Thou shalt not raise a false report. Put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness.
Right. You don't want to give a false reports, right? You don't want to be in the same group as the wicked, right? You want to be a righteous witness. Like, you don't want to go and say, well, I seen a brother do this, knowing you didn't see a brother do anything like that. Giving a false report on a sister, knowing that report can result in her not having a husband no more, right? You don't want to give that report, right? Especially in the time of the old prophets, right? In the time of when we were walking out of Egypt and getting to our kingdom. You don't want to give that false report, because there was a time when there was an administration of death, meaning the law was carried out. And if that judgment of the law, right, the statute of that law was death, then a false report can get you murdered. A false report can get blood on the hands of a priest and prophet, right? When it's innocent blood, and that's not supposed to happen, right? And back in those times, all you needed was two witnesses. Two witnesses give a false report, and listen, now that person lost their life when that should have never happened. Right, so we're gonna what else do we want to? Right, we're gonna go to the book of the history of Susanna. Right, there was a righteous sister. She did the right thing. She knew exactly what to do when it was time for someone. When someone came up and decided in their mind that they're going to abuse her, right? She fought it. Right, she was a righteous sister. That's what you have to do. If someone's trying to abuse you, fight, scream, scratch. You want to fight to the death. Will that person's gonna get their punishment? If you die trying to fight off your abuser, we're going to remember you. We're going to talk about you. You're going to come back in a stronger body, right? Do you got your apocrypha with you? When you get it, Salakia, bring us to history of Susanna and start at verse 1. Right. You want to knowing that the crimes you commit against innocent people, the abuse you give them, it will change their life. It will make them. They will never be the same, right? You don't want to ever do that, right? You want to live righteously, and a lot of times we look up to so-called leaders who turn around and abuse us, right? The whole Catholic Church is a whole pedophile ring that's responsible for the death of thousands of Native American children, the tribe of Gad, the North American Indians, right? The earth is helping the woman, who's the woman being Israel. The earth is helping us by giving us these bodies back, right? Our children were taken from their families, and now the earth is helping us and giving the bodies back to us, right? And shame is covering our oppressor. And the Catholic Church is saying, well, let's not forget about the good that we did. That sounds exactly like polite, right? Where he's trying to make it seem like the good, that he's the so-called good, because we know he hasn't done anything good, right? If anything, he's shown us that the unconscious community does not love Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? He bought a whole Rolls Royce or rented it, right? He's been Slovakia, not even to just go on, but that man has not been good for Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? There are many allegations against him, right? Some we've seen where he's taking pictures of the with the oppressor's daughter, and she's in some type of Hamite garment, but that's like, now Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we're not Hamites, but the conscious community tells us we're Hamites. We know that on this side of the hemisphere and all around the world, our oppressors have committed terrible crimes. So for him to pose with an oppressor's daughter and say, well, is she not allowed to wear this garment? That is like a slap in the face to the so-called Black people that they tell are Hamites, are Africans, right? Whenever you got that verse, you could read it.
Khan, this is the story of Susanna, chapter 1, verse 1. There dwelt a man in Babylon called Joachim.
Right. So there was a man in Babylon. His name was Joachim, right? This was a brother, and he was a well-off brother. Read.
Verse 2. And he took a wife whose name was Susanna, the daughter of Chelcias, a fair woman, and one that feared the Lord.
Right. So this was a righteous sister. She feared the Lord, right? That means she kept the commandments. She wasn't a whore. She wasn't outside dressed in all manner of unclothing, of nakedness. She wasn't naked outside. She wasn't twerking on anything that's freestanding, right? This is how our sister should be, a righteous sister who fears the Lord, who knows the Lord might put me to death if I'm not on my game. Sisters, you got to be on the ball. You got to be on your game. You got to not want to live like the heathens, right? We just watched the sister Shikari, I don't even know how to pronounce his sister's name, but the Judite sister who was supposed to run at the Olympics, who got caught smoking and she didn't get to run. She ran against some Benjamite sisters in full oppressor hair, right? She had on a long blonde wig, right? Let's just say the Lord was not with her during that race. She came dead last, and she's happy about being the 6th fastest woman in the world. Well, listen, you were supposed to be the first, right? If the Lord was with you, you would have been the first. Jump down to verse 4.
This is the history of Susanna, chapter 1, verse 4. Lord Joachim was a great rich man and had a fair garden joining unto his house.
Right, so this brother, he had money, he had wealth, right? And he had a beautiful garden, a rich garden off to the side of the house. Something that most Blacks and Hispanics and Native Americans aspire to have, right? You want a big house with a beautiful garden, a beautiful outdoor space, right? You'll get all that and more being a righteous brother, being a righteous sister, following the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High while loving your brother and sister. Read.
And to him resorted the Jews, because he was more honorable than all others.
Right. So this brother, he had honor, right? He had honor. They looked at him like this is a good man, right? He had a wife that was a good sister. Da, 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 da. Read verse 5.
Verse 5. The same year were appointed two of the ancients of the people to be judges,
Right.
such
So
as the
two
Lord spake
prominent,
of.
hold that right there. Two prominent people in that same year were appointed to be judges over the people. Right. And that's what the Lord wanted. The Lord wanted us to have judges, right? He didn't want us to we're supposed to be a nation of judges, a nation of priests and prophets. Read.
That wickedness came from Babylon, from ancient judges, who seemed to govern the people.
Right. But these judges, they were your Eddie Longs. They were your Kurt Franklins, your Farrakhan's, your Brother Polites, right? They were wicked, right? And these are the people that were supposed to govern the people, right? But they were wicked, right? And a wicked man cannot judge or 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 rule over people righteously, cannot govern anything. A wicked man only cares about his lust, right? A wicked man wants to date a sister, tell her she's a god just so he could go and abuse her daughter in the end, right? Because that's what he wants to do. He's seen the mother, but while he was looking at the mother, he had one eye looking at the mother and the other was going off and looking at the daughter. That's what a wicked man does. Da, 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 da. Read verse 6, Baba Kasha.
Verse 6. These kept much at Joachim's house, and all that had any suits in law came unto them.
Right. So these brothers, they were in Joachim's house, and anybody who had anything to be dealt with, they would come to them. Read.
Verse 7. Now when the people departed away at noon, Susanna went into her husband's garden to walk.
Right. This sister, around noontime, midday, when that sun was high in the sky, she would go into the garden to walk around. Right. And just like any sister will do, like, her husband's away at work, she's at home, she might go outside for a walk, get outside for a little, right? Clear her mind, look at the flowers, smell the garden, right? If you have a beautiful garden, you want to walk through it, you want to smell the beautiful garden, you want to enjoy the sights of the birds and just enjoy the nature. Read.
Verse 8. And the two elders saw her going in every day and walking, so that their lust was inflamed toward her.
Right. Now that's how you know these are unrighteous men. Their lust, they seen that sister and knew they're not even supposed to look at that sister like that. They're not even supposed to be talking to that sister, but they had lust and it was just inflamed, right? They had lust and their lust was burning, right? They wanted to do evil. What did we read earlier? Wicked imaginations to this sister. Read verse 9, Baba Kasha.
Verse 9. And they perverted their own mind.
Hold
And
that right
turned
there.
away.
Right? They perverted their own mind, meaning they started lusting after this sister in their mind, right? And lusting after a sister in your mind is evil, right? It's especially now if you see a sister that listen, you see a sister who can fill out a sundress, right? You know that's a beautiful sister. She's shapely, right? She's a grown woman. First off, make sure that sister is a grown woman, right? Not on well, she had her flower, she had her first monthly, and she is 12. That's not what you want to do, right? That is disgusting, and you deserve death for that, right? But make sure she's a grown woman. You see a sister that's a grown woman and you find her attractive. Well, go shoot your shot, right? Go shoot your shot. Go talk to her for a year. Try to make her your wife, especially if she's not being courted by anybody or she doesn't have a husband, right? But that's not what these men were thinking about. These men were thinking about another man's wife, right? You're not supposed to be thinking about another man's wife. And that's why the ISUPK is the greatest, safest place for Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, because in here, no man is going to be thinking about your wife. No man is going to act on thinking about your wife. No man is going to be sitting down with your rib by herself, right? She's going to be protected. She's going to be watched over. Keep reading.
And they perverted their own mind and turned away their eyes, that they might not look unto heaven, nor remember just judgments.
Right. So they didn't want to remember that, listen, I'm not supposed to look at this sister. I'm not supposed to talk to this sister, right? They didn't want to remember the kingdom of heaven, right? They just wanted to remember lusting her. That's what they wanted to think about. They knew what righteous judgment is. They knew they weren't supposed to do that, but that's not how they felt. Da, 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 da. Read verse 10.
Verse 10. And albeit they both were wounded with her love, yet durst not one shew another his grief.
Right. Read verse 12.
Susanna chapter 1 verse 12. Yet they watched diligently from day to day to see her.
Right. And that's what happens, right? Salakia, like that's what happens when you lust after another man's property. You're gonna now you know that sister is attractive, but you also know she's spoken for. That's another man's property. That's another man's rib, right? But they let their lust go from day to day. They watched her. They stalked her. They were the type that would be the sisters walking in the garden. They're hiding behind the tree trying to get a glimpse, right? You should never want to go after another man's property, another man's belongings, right? The Most High hates a thief. He hates an adulterer, right? You don't ever want to go after another man's property, another man's woman, right? Because eventually, like you start thinking about her, you're going to act on those actions, on those thoughts. You're going to turn thoughts into actions. Let me bring me down to read 14.
Khan. Susanna chapter 1 verse 14. So when they were gone out, they parted the one from the other, and turning back again, they came to the same place. And after that, they had asked one another the cause. They acknowledged their lust. They appointed they then appointed they a time both together, when they might find her alone.
That's what their lust made them do. Their lust made them get together and start talking about their lust for their sister. These are supposed to be righteous men. These are supposed to be men that are going to judge, right? This is what happens all the time. You will have a so-called Eddie Long, a so-called Farrakhan or Elijah Muhammad, and eventually they're going to be talking about their lust to someone, and they're going to see a sister or a young brother, like Lord be with them. They're going to see somebody's child, somebody's wife, somebody's daughter, and be like, listen, we got to catch this person alone, right? The Catholic Church is famous for the priests having a long time with the altar boys, right? So much so that in Montreal right now, priests can't be alone with children, right? But that's supposed to be a godly man, but he's not allowed to be alone with a child. Read 15, Baba Kasha.
Chapter Salakia, verse 15. And it fell out as they watched the fit time. She went in as before, with 2 maids only. And she was desirous to wash herself in the garden, for it was hot.
Right. So it's a hot day. She wants to wash herself in the garden, and it just happened that those judges were there, right? Now, she only had 2 maids with her. All right, 1 second. Once again, in 30 minutes, Commanding General YAHANNA will be going live. Go and check it out. Black Watch News. Right. Read. Where were we? Read 16.
Verse 16. And there was nobody there save the 2 elders that had hid themselves and watched her.
Right. And this is what always happens. Your pastor, he's going to find a way to have some alone time with your child. Your so-called leader is going to say, well, the mother's sleeping. Let me take this daughter outside. Right. Or you're going to hear about a story of the so-called leader saying, well, I was just taking her to ballerina practice. Right. I was just taking her to gymnastics, but he pulled over into a dead-end alley, right, and tried to abuse her child. And now you're wondering why she hasn't been talking for the last few weeks, right? Read that one more time.
Susanna, chapter 1, verse 16. And there was nobody there save the 2 elders that had hid themselves and watched her.
Right. So because we have laws, right, a sister is going to go. Now, this is back in the day. Imagine there's no shower, no bathroom door. You're going to go outside and you're going to go shower in a pond, in a pond that you have in your garden, right? You might go to the river and shower, right? That's what she was doing. She was in her garden and she desired to go and shower. It was hot, right? You can ask any Black, Hispanic, or Native American. Listen, when it gets hot, that summer sun starts to hit, right? You could be outside and be like 40 minutes away from your house. You're going to go home and take a shower and chill out and then come back outside, right? And that's what she wanted to do, right? She wasn't trying to show her nakedness to anybody. So her maids would walk her into the garden, right? And then they would either turn their back or they would go outside until she calls back for them, right? But these disgusting leaders, what they did was they decided to fall back. They decided to go chill in the back somewhere and watch her. Again, they're literally creeping behind a tree. They are like perverts, like a peeping Tom, like the oppressor that's in his windows with the binoculars, right? If you live in a building, it's best you shut your windows, right? Especially sisters. Good night. Sisters, don't be coming out of your shower and going into your room with that window open. There's some oppressor on his balcony with a telescope, right? He has the night vision goggles. He has the high powered binoculars, and he's on his balcony with the blinds. The binoculars are cracked through the blinds, so it looks like the window's open, but the binoculars are only there, and he's watching. Right, and that's what these unrighteous men were doing. They were watching this sister. They were just waiting for the appropriate time to pounce like a predator. They were predators, right? And a lot of times our brothers and sisters, they fall victim and no one believes them, right? It's like depending on if it's a nobody in the person's life, right? They might be taken seriously, right? A lot of times you'll hear a mother say, "Don't lie on the pastor," right? You'll hear a family member say, "No, that person is a righteous person. You shouldn't be lying," and then they'll spank the child, ground the child, send them to their bed without food, right? All because they don't want to hear what is going on in behind the scenes, right? Luckily, we're in a place, right? Well, listen, General Muhammad broke this down perfectly. He said, "I have a daughter." If someone says, right? He said, if my daughter comes to me and says, this person molested me, right? Though for the whole contents of the conversation, it was about an investigation, right? Now we're in the time where investigations have to be played out. Back then, it was 2 witnesses, right? That was the most of your investigation, and we're gonna see this play out when we keep reading this story. But it was only 2 witnesses. That's all you needed. Once those 2 witnesses give their story, and it's against you, listen, man, you're gonna be stoned. You're gonna be convicted. Right, but what General Muhammad said was, if his daughter says she's being abused, well, that's the end of it, right? Meaning he doesn't even have to do an investigation. She said you're abusing her. You've been convicted already, right? And that's the way we're supposed to treat our children, treat our loved ones. When they come and tell us something, you go with it. Right? You don't turn around and tell them that's the pastor. He would never do that. All he wants to do is bless us. All he wants to do is give us the word. All he wants to do is help us live righteously. When that pastor is sleeping with every little boy in the congregation, right? We know that the Christian church is an effeminate place, and that's why the sodomites are heavy in the church. Right? The pastor is not telling them, well, you can't be sodomite in the church, because the pastor is a homosexual himself. Right? And listen, trying to sleep with another man's wife, knowing that is someone's wife. Listen, she was just sleeping with someone last night, and now you want to go in onto her? That is homosexuality. Right? You should not want to go into another female that you know a man is going in onto. Where are we?
We're at verse 17.
Verse 17. Throughout, you can read verse 17.
Susanna chapter 1 verse 17. Then she said to her maids, "Bring me oil and washing balls, and shut the garden doors, that I may wash me."
Right. So just like what we were saying earlier, she asked for the garden. Salakia. My camera went out for a second, but she asked for the garden doors to be shut, because she knows she's not trying to show her nakedness to these sisters. She is a righteous sister, right? She said, "Bring me oil and washing balls, and shut the garden door. She wanted to smell good for her husband, be fresh for her husband, right? Read verse 18.
Verse 18. And the day that she bade them, and shut the garden doors, and went out themselves at privy doors to fetch the things that she had commanded them.
Hold that right there, right? She bade them and shut the garden doors, right? And they did what she asked. She said, "Go get the oils." They went and got the oils and the scrubbing balls, right, and the washing balls. That they shut the garden doors and left so she could have her alone time, right? That's what she wanted, right? Some alone time. Like every sister does it. They'll come home from a long day. You'll come home from your slavery, and you'll find your rib just in the shower, just chilling, right? There's a whole industry for sisters. It's called Bath and Body Works, right? Where they have all these oils, all these bath salts, all these Salakia. What's the thing that these sisters they put in the bath, and it's like a ball, and it starts to foam up.
Salakia, I just call it a bath ball.
That's it, the bath bomb, right? The sisters love a bath bomb. You wanna listen? I'm gonna give you some free game right now. You're courting a sister, right? You got a rib at home. Sometimes those flowers get played out, man. You could give the flowers, but they gonna die. You just go to a Bath and Body Works or any bath type of shop that sells like those, just a different kind of bathing things that sisters like, different kind of oils and incenses and stuff. And you just get her a kit with some bath bombs, some scrubs, some oils, right? Those little pearls, the little squishy little pearls that they put in the water, right? And ooh wee, you might be making a baby that night. It's more than likely you're going to be making a baby that night and be bringing more children into the truth 9 months later. Right. Where were we? That was 17. Read 18, Baba Kashar.
18.
Oh no, we read 18. You can continue.
I didn't finish the verse 18
18
though.
Khan, throughout. I was just thinking that myself. You can finish it out.
But not the elders, because they were hid.
Right. Wait, hold up. Read that again.
And they did as she bade them, and shut the garden doors, and went out themselves at private doors to fetch the things that she had commanded them.
Salakia, throughout. Read back again from, but they saw not the elders.
But they saw not the elders, because they were hid.
Right? These disgusting men who had power, right? They hid in that garden to creep on that sister, to violate her, right? If you've ever, Salakia, I'm just trying to think of like the best way to say it. Like you got, even when you got a rib at home, and she just came out the shower, and you might not even know she came out the shower, but you got home, she came out the shower, she's in the bedroom, and she's getting herself prepared to put on some nightly garments or some house clothes, or even to go out, right? And you just slightly crack that door. The first thing she's going to do is grab her towel, right? She's going to grab her towel. She's going to look back like a deer in headlights, like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Right? So now imagine these men who are supposed to be judges, they seen this sister, and instead of Salakia, they're creeping on this sister. And if she had caught them, she would have did the same thing, ran for her bath, for her robe, for her towel, right? But these men were disgusting, and they stayed hid, right? They stayed hiding so they can creep on their sister so they could spy on her. Read.
Verse 19. Now when the maids were gone forth, the two elders rose up and ran unto her, saying,
Right. So when the maids were gone, the two elders rose up. These men, they were like Salakia. Have you ever watched like the Discovery Channel or one of those nature shows and they show the lioness hunting, right? Or any
Come.
like feline type beast of the field just like stalking its prey, and it's in the deep grass and it's just watching. It's just watching that gazelle, and it's watching and it's watching and it's watching. And then what happens? There comes a time when that cat, that big cat, that big tiger or big lion, jaguar, cheetah, it creeps out, right? A crocodile, well, good night. A crocodile will stay under the water and you will only see the two eyes. You won't even see the crocodile. You'll just see two eyes out of the water, and it's looking at whatever is drinking water on the bank of the pond or the lake or the river, and then the big jaws snap out and it grabs its prey. That's what these two judges were doing, right? They were stalking this sister and they were patiently waiting for her they were waiting for the right moment where they could jump out and grab their prey. Read.
Behold, verse 20. Behold, the garden doors are shut, that no man can see us, and we are in love with thee. Therefore consent unto us, and lie with us.
They wait. They said what?
Therefore, behold, the garden doors are shut, that no man can see us, and
Hold
we are
that
in
right
love
there.
with thee.
They snuck up on this sister, made her grab for her towel because this was a righteous sister. She knows this is not my husband, right? This is not a good thing. This thing right here is evil, right? And they turned around and told her, listen, nobody's watching us, right? Just do what we want because nobody's watching us. Our lust is boiling over right now, and we have to have you. Even though it's an abomination, it's a sin. Right? Read.
Therefore consent unto us, and lie with us.
Right. They said we are in love with thee, therefore give it up to us. Right? What kind of the mind state of a man that thinks that him sneaking up on his sister, right, while she's in her full glory, like the day she was born, right? She's naked in her full glory. This is a grown-ass woman, very beautiful to look at. And they're thinking, well, listen, we snuck up on you. We know you have a husband, but we love you. They thought saying to her, we love you, right, is going to justify their actions. And she was going to say, well, yes, just take me now, right? And that's just like every pedophile, every rapist, every Christian pastor, every pervert and abuser that abuses. They do the crime and then say it's all good, don't worry about it, I love you, and it's going to be all right. It's not anything big of a big deal because I love you. That's just such an evil thing to do to a person, right? Especially to a sister, right? And these men are gonna get more evil, right? But this sister, this is a righteous sister. She's going to turn around and do the righteous thing. She's going to do the thing that she's supposed to do, right? Read.
Verse 21. If thou wilt not, we will bear witness against thee, that a young man was with thee, and therefore thou didst send away thy maids from thee.
Right. So they told her, listen, if you do not sleep with us, right, we're going to bear a false witness on you and give a false report. The Most High already said that he hates false reports, right? You're not supposed to give a false report on a sister, on a brother. You're not supposed to give a false report ever. Don't even give a false report on a heathen, right? The Most High is going to see that these heathens are getting what they deserve. You don't ever want to give a false report on a heathen, right? On a sister, on a brother, right? Because that makes you a liar. The Most High hates liars, right? And what if now this sister is innocent, right? So they were going to give a false report, knowing that this false report is going to lead to her death, right? All they wanted to do was shed blood, right? And they said that they were going to say that a young man was with her, right? And they caught the young man, right? We're gonna keep reading and find out what happens next, right? And it's so heavy because a lot of times our so-called leaders, they do the same thing, right? They turn around and tell the children. They turn around and tell the children that listen, you if you turn around and tell, right, I'm gonna say you're lying. I'm gonna say you made me do it, right? I'm gonna say you asked for it. And this is what happens a lot of times for when brothers and sisters are being abused by people that are supposed to be trusted, right? You have to know who to trust, right? If you're thinking you're going into that church where they tell you the law is done away with, give us your money, right? They say you don't have to keep the law, but keep the law of tithes, right? You're going into those buildings and thinking that that's a righteous person. You're being set up for failure. You're being pimped, right? You're going to find out that your child was abused, and you're gonna want to kill that person, right? But that's why the Most High, he set up a little sanctuary for his children, right? He set up a little sanctuary for his children where this is not happening. We've been watching our so-called leaders abuse us for years, right? I seen a story, right? This sister, a grown-ass sister, right? She was at her parents' house, right? And in the video, she's crying. This is somewhere on Worldstar, right? She's crying to her mom, and she's saying, listen, you knew. Right when she said you knew, I'm like, damn, I know what this is about, right? Because we've seen this story play out a million times in the Black, Hispanic, and Native American community, right? She said, you knew he was doing it. And I said, damn, I feel sorry for this sister, because you can hear the pain in her voice. You can hear that she's been broken. She said, she basically turns around and says she hasn't been the same since. And she says, Mom, I told you. And the mom said, you never told me anything. And she said, yes, I told you. Now, this is what's happening in the story. The sister is telling her mom, arguing with her mom and saying, you knew what was happening to me. You knew your husband, who would have been her stepfather, is abusing me, right? The kicker is the stepfather is still in the house. The mother kicked the daughter out of the house. The daughter's been in the streets doing Lord knows what to survive, right? While the man who was abusing her is still laid up with the mother. And the mother just acted like it was nothing. She said, this is why our relationship is messed up. This is why I'm messed up. The mother couldn't handle it, and she started attacking the daughter. And that was one of the saddest videos I've ever watched. But again, it's the same thing. We see it all the time, right? We see it so many times. It plays out all the time. Where are we?
Right, verse 22.
Read 21 again. Baruch Shah.
Verse 21. If thou wilt not, we will bear witness against thee, that a young man was with thee, and therefore thou didst send away thy maids from thee.
Right. So that's what they're trying to say. They're trying to turn around and tell her now, listen, we're about to bear false witness on you, right? So okay, let's reverse that. They're saying we're about to say you sent away your maid so you can get with this man, right? That's the threat that they're telling her. They're saying if you don't do this for us now, this is what we're going to do. Right. Once again, Black Watch News. That's the new channel. 9 p.m. tonight. In a couple of moments, 9 p.m. tonight. On the they're going to be going Black Watch News on YouTube 9 p.m. tonight. You could also check out blackwatch.news. That's the new website, right? And you'll get all the good content that you missed over the previous weeks, right? There's music. There's a lot of updates. Right, stay in touch. Tap in with the prophets. Salakia. That was 21. Read 22, Baba Kasha.
Verse 22. Then Susanna cited and said, I am straitened on every side.
Wait, hold up.
It is death.
Right? That's what a righteous sister said. She said, listen, I'm blessed. I'm like, nah, that's something Benjamin might say a lot, right? We say we're blessed. Like someone says, listen, I'm going to do something to you, or you're gonna pay for that. And a Benjamin brother or sister will tell you, I'm blessed. There's nothing you could do. Right? This is what she's saying. She's saying, read it one more time.
Then Susanna cited and said, I am straitened on every side. If I do this thing.
She said she's straight on every side. That means she's been keeping the law. She knows the Lord's with her. She's not fearing these perverts. Read.
For if I do this thing, it is death unto me.
She knew.
And if I do it not.
Right. She knew that if she was to give in, it was death. Right? Because one thing a monster would, if a monster eats once, it's going to eat twice. If they got her to do it once, they would have got her to do it twice. Right? She knew that eventually it would get out, they would get caught. She had wanted no part of that. Right? She wasn't even thinking about them. She had a whole husband, Joachim. Right? That's who she was waiting for. Read.
And if I do it not, I cannot escape your hands.
She said, listen, if I do it, this is a saying that you've probably said this so many times if you're watching. I'm damned if I do, and I'm damned if I don't. If I do it, it's death because I become a whore and I might be stoned to death, right? If I don't, y'all are going to attack me and beat me to the ground, right? But regardless, sisters, don't do it. Young brothers, don't do it. Fight, scream, scratch, claw your way out of that situation. And if the Lord brings you to sleep with your fathers, right, you're going to be judged for righteousness and be given a new body in the regeneration, right? So fight to the death. That's the long story. That's the short version of what I just said, right? Don't let someone trick you into being abused. Fight to the death, right? But so many of our young brothers and sisters, especially the sister that Polite is accused of abusing, she couldn't fight that man, right? Now, I'm not sure if she screamed, right? but somehow the proper authorities, well, not even to say the proper authority, because the proper authority in the earth is the men in the I.S.U.P.K, right? But Esau's overseers, Esau's police officers, right? Somehow she got the story to them, whether it was with the mom or whether it was her going directly to them. This story got out. This is a crime that happened sometime this year, right? And Polite, he's gonna have to face judgment for it. We're seeing his judgment right now for trying to come up against the ISUPK, right? He should have never done that. He should have never tried to come up against the men of the Lord. And she said, if I do it not, I cannot escape your hands, knowing she's gonna get beaten down. Read, what do we got next? That was 22.
Verse 23.
Read 23, Baba Kashar. We're going to go to 27 and then end the class a little short. Salakia, camera chipping out again. We're going to go into 27 and end the class a little short. And then we're going to continue again from next Monday.
Khan Wakan. It says Susanna chapter 1 verse 23. It is better for me to fall into your hands and not do it than to sin in the sight of the Lord.
Right. Let's give that sister a hand. Right. Let's give that sister a hand. Baba Kasha'ak, read that one more time for me.
Verse 23. It is better for me to fall into your hands and not do it.
And not do it. Right? It's better to die and not do it than to sin in the sight of the Lord. She was willing to die to protect her honor. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you have to be willing to do the same thing, right? Take it away from the abuse for a second. You have to be willing to die for your honor, right? You have to be willing to go against everything, knowing, damn, I might not come back, right? The Maccabees did it, right? Those Maccabee brothers, they did it. They were willing to die not to eat pork, and every time they were told to eat pork, they would say la'ah. Then they were hacked to bits. They were fried. They were tortured to death in front of their mother, and their mother looked at them and said, "Be strong, boys. Go through it." Right? And that's what they did. That's how you're supposed to be if you're Black, Hispanic, and Native American. Right? You're supposed to be willing to die for the honor of the Lord so you don't sin in front of the Lord. Right? And listen, that's righteous. Right? If you ever wanted, like, you'll hear the conscious community, the unconscious community. We got to stop calling them conscious because they have no conscience. They're unconscious, right? Their champion is now in the mud. Right. Once again, go check out Black Watch News on YouTube, blackwatch.news, Commanding General YAHANNA live on YouTube. Go check all of that out. It's live right now. Right? That you want to check that out. It's going to be good content. But back to what we were saying. The unconscious community, they have no conscience. Their star is fizzing out in front of us, and we're watching that man be judged by the Lord. We're watching. Listen, you think you have secrets and they're going to stay secrets? Everything always comes out. You think the men of the Lord don't know what you're doing? We know. It always comes out, right? You can't hide, right? And if you're in this school trying to hide some crime that you're doing, some deviancy that you're doing, talking to some sister you're not supposed to be talking to, listen, the men of the Lord are going to find out. General Muhammad, he's everywhere. He's watching us right now. Right? That's all you got to know. Right? It's going to come out. Right? What do we... She didn't want to sin in the sight of the Lord. Let's get 24, Baba Kasha.
Verse 24. With that, Susanna cried with a loud voice, and the two elders cried out against her.
She did exactly what she was supposed to do. What did these perverts do? They tried to switch it on her. They tried to flip the whole script. She said, help. They said, help. She screamed out, what are you doing? They screamed out, what are you doing? She cried out. She wanted someone to run in right now to see what's happening. Right? Because she knew what we know now. Right? If no one was witness to this, right? No one was going to believe her. Look at all the victims of abuse. No one ever believes them. It's always, well, listen, man, it's Bill Cosby. He was trying to buy NBC. Right? So Salakia, Barakia Allah, they said Polite must have been trying to buy BET. He must have been trying to buy BET, and they had to throw some charges on him. I guess, right? Because no one wants to ever believe the victim. Now, let's not even say it, but what if the mom put the daughter up to it? The daughter is still the victim at the end of it. Right? That is still the victim. You always have to go with the victim. Right? So we're gonna keep reading, right? But this sister, she was righteous, right? When the abusers were trying to abuse her, she screamed out. And that's what all sisters have to do. That's what all young men, all brothers have to do in the sight of your abuser. When they're trying to abuse you, fight, scream, right? Scratch claw your way out of there, right? That's what you're supposed to do, and that's what this sister did. Read that one more time, because she had the right spirit on her. She said, "Listen, if I do it, I'm damned. If I don't do it, I'm damned. Listen, I'd rather fall at your hands, meaning kill me." Right? She said, "Kill me, because I'm not doing this," and she screamed. Let's read that one more time.
Verse 24. With that, Susanna cried with a loud voice.
So Salakia, bring me to 23. Read 23, because this is just such an amazing story of a righteous sister who wasn't taking no bullshit. She wasn't with the bullshit. She was, excuse my French, she was willing to die for righteousness. Read.
Verse 23. It is better for me to fall into your hands and not do it than to sin in the sight of the Lord.
Susanna said, listen, I'd rather die at your hands than to sin, right? She wasn't willingly going to sleep with these judges, right? These men were evil. They were just like every pastor and every false leader you could think of, where they say something and they make it seem like they're righteous, but behind the scenes, they're abusing every child, and you're wondering, why is this child so messed up right now? Why are they rebelling like this? And you haven't figured it out. Well, all you have to do is ask questions. If you have a son, a daughter, right? Just ask questions. Speak to them every day. Ask them questions. You notice something's off with them. You ask, hey, what's going on? You ask questions, right? I had a friend who her daughter, now basically her daughter went through some things, and she started talking to me, and she's telling me about how her daughter's acting up. And I said, your daughter's acting up like that? Like, wait, what? What's going on? Who do you have in your house? She told me who she had in her house, and I said, listen, go and ask your daughter these questions. She went and asked, and listen, man, eventually the story came out, and now there's criminal charges laid, right? And that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to ask questions, right? Keep reading.
Verse 24. With that, Susanna cried with a loud voice.
She cried, right? She screamed with a loud voice. Read.
And the two elders cried out against her.
And the two elders tried to do the same thing. Read.
Verse 25. Then ran the one and opened the garden door.
This snake bastard ran to open the garden door to make it look like she was in the wrong. Read.
Verse 26. So when the servants of the house heard the cry in the garden, they rushed in at the private door to see what was done unto her.
Right. So now she knew that eventually if she screams, someone's gonna rush in. Right. These servants, they rushed in to find out what was going on. Read.
Verse 27. But when the elders had declared their matter, the servants were greatly ashamed, for there was never such a report made of Susanna.
Right. So they're saying, wait, this is messed up. Like they felt a little bit ashamed because Susanna was righteous. They know Susanna is righteous. And they're saying, 1 second, how is this happening? Right? Why is this report being made? Right? Susanna's never had any report like this. What is going on? Right? And this is something that happens to our children all the time. Right? Where they start to tell, and then like it's like there's shame, right? Because you're like, wait, that's not supposed to happen. No. That's never happened, right? And it's such a great shame to see our children be unprotected. Right. I right. Like that's so heavy, right? Princess Sarah Israel says, protect these babies. Most women don't want to have to lay up alone, so they rather be ignorant to what's going on in front of them or blame the child, right? That's what's happening, right? A lot of times that's exactly what's happening, right? The child might be put to shame, right? Just like what we were talking about earlier about the sister who confronted her mother, right? About the stepfather, and the mother shamed the child, started striking the child. This is a grown-ass woman now. Now the mother's trying to beat the child. You could only imagine what the child went to, right? It's a grown-ass woman now, but the mother tried to strike her like she was a child. You could only imagine what the child went through the first time she told the mother when she actually was a child. Let's read 28.
Verse 28. And it came to pass the next day, when the people were assembled to her husband Joachim, the two elders came all full of mischievous imagination against Susanna to put her to death.
They knew from the get-go that if they did what they said they were going to do and give their wicked imagination and false report, that she was going to be put to death if convicted, right? And when her husband Joachim came now and everyone gathered and the judges are putting the false report, they're saying, oh, listen, she didn't give it up, so let's kill her, right? And this is a righteous sister. She was prepared to die. She was prepared to die, but she wasn't going to die a sinner in front of the Lord, right? So we're going to stop right there. Next week, we're going to continue from history of Susanna in the Apocrypha from verse 29, right? There's about another 30 or so verses, right? Another 34 verses, 35 verses. If you want to continue reading on for anybody who's watching, right? The history of Susanna, we're in its one chapter, verse 29, and this is a righteous sister, man. There are so many stories of righteous sisters in our book, in our history book. So whenever some unconscious person tries to tell you that that what about the women? Just give them the story of Susanna, right? This is a good story, a story that the children should hear this story. Like, you have a child that's old enough, they should be hearing this story. They should be knowing about the history of Susanna and how she was willing to die to make sure her abusers wouldn't abuse her. Right. So with that said, this has been another Monday night history class. Again, go check out Black Watch News on YouTube. You can check out the website blackwatch.news for all the updates. And there's definitely going to be some great stories coming out of that channel, coming out of the live stream right now. This is the only place where you're going to get actual stories that pertain to Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? Now, we know that Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the children of Israel, right? And you got to love your brother and sister. You got to protect your children. You got to protect your brother and sister, so no wolf in sheep's clothing is trying to harm them, because that's what's happening. A lot of times the person says, I'll lead you to righteousness. I will lead you to whatever that person is trying to sell, whatever crystals or tarot cards they're trying to have you read, right? Just to abuse you in the long run, just to abuse your children in the long run. Right. So with that said, this has been another history class. We'll give a quick roll call to the chat. Shalom Yahweh Hashem Al Shai Barakatha to Trooper Sakat. Shalom Yahweh Shamar Alatha Ba Shem Al Shai to sister Sarah Israel through water for tuning in. Salaki, I forgot to drop that sign out link. If you are interested in getting a Hebrew name, we have a sign out link for you. You just keep hitting the sign out link, and eventually someone within the school will contact you, and just keep attending class. This is a safe haven for Blacks, Hispanics, and Native American. We are building up Canada, right? You want to get in on the ground floor, right? Eventually, we'll have a school and a building in every city in Canada, so our people have a safe place to be, right? Because there's no safe place for us, right? We're just out in the streets dying. We're in these churches being abused. We're in these mosques being abused. And if you're in any building or group with a student of Malachi Z. York, run, right? If you're anywhere near the conscious community, the unconscious community, run, because they're straight up monsters. They're looking to hide the children, right? Hide the children. I don't know if anybody ever seen that meme, right? Where the brother, he's looking kind of effeminate, but he be saying hide the children, because he knows, right? Some monster out there is going to try and do something bad to your child, right? So don't forget to hit that sign-in link. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Share these videos on every platform, right? And we'll be back next Monday with the continuation of the histories of Susanna. Tomorrow at 5 p.m. on this same channel, we have the Brotherhood class, right, taught by Officer 50 Shar Yuan. Right. Again, Shalom, Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai Barakatha to all the brothers, Yahweh Shamar Alatha Ba Hashem Yahweh Shai to all the sisters.